Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Hello, this is Charles Beauchel, and welcome into the Formula for Weekend Warriors, powered by Ray Esports. Along with me is Josh Wilkie in the production booth, turning all the dials for us. And joining me in the broadcast is an old friend, Sam Fitzpatrick. Sam, welcome in. So he's going to be stepping in for at least a race, maybe a couple of races. You never can tell with Sam. But Sam and I have, he was one of my mentors when I first started this broadcasting adventure that I've been doing here for the past 4 or 5 seasons. So Sam, welcome in, and looking forward to a good race here today at Summit Point with the Formula 4s.
Absolutely, thank you for the very kind introduction, Charles. Yeah, going to be absolutely mega. These cars are absolutely awesome, and the racing that we have, of course, in these Weekend Warriors, as I don't need to tell any of our viewers, is some of the best that we get on the channel all week long. So very fun, and it's great to be back at Summit Point as well, a circuit that I've done so many races on, maybe more races than anything else. Maybe Okayama is up there as well, but it's an absolute old school stuff. I think this is a fantastic track, actually. It's one of the absolute best on the iRacing base content, and so a brilliant place to start this new season.
Yeah, absolutely. Summit Point is one of those base content tracks that you'll get with iRacing. That's free. That's a part of the free package, and it is a fantastic track, and it really serves well with single make races, especially some of the low power stuff like the Formula 4s, the SRFs, which we'll see a little bit later on today. See, obviously week 1, brand new season, so new possibilities as we're going here into qualifying with just about 7.5 minutes left to go. So we've, looking up and down the leaderboard, some of our usual suspects, you'll see the names that you recognize if you've been following the Weekend Warrior series. Joao Tabino currently sitting on pole, Aeronom in third, Antonio Race, Jorg Monty, a cast of thousands. Actually a very, very good grid. 43 cars looks like is out on the track, at least trying to set a qualifying time. So it's going to make for some very good racing. And as always, as we see Aeronom jumping up to the top of the board with Pole, who obviously had a pretty impressive season last year, winning several races. So what are we looking for today, Sam, as far as as far as the race itself. 40 minutes, big grid, very small track. So it's kind of a dice roll when you got that many cars on a track like this.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of an odd one because this is a narrow circuit. It is very much, a club circuit. I mean, it's not even, as far as I'm aware, at least in real life, it's not used for really any national events. It's, very much small time stuff. But it's a bit of a speedrome, this place. The front straight is very long, and you've got a big braking area at the end of it, and then you've got two straights appending onto it as well. And so racing's really possible around here, and you can have a lot of pack racing. The drivers are going to be grouped together for most of the event, and so qualifying won't be absolutely necessary, and potentially could see a fair amount of fuel saving as well come the race. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of very close racing, and we're not going to know who's going to come out on top until the final couple of minutes of the 40-minute event.
And that's usually how it works here. As we're continuing with qualifying, we'll give you the top three in each class, and we'll talk about each class. With the Formula 4s, there are three classes out on track, all racing together. Spec 1, which are the cars with numbers 0 up to 200. And these are our 3K and up I-rated drivers. As we see, usually the top of the board with Aeronom, Joao Tabino, and Sam Spinell in your top three. As you can see, we've got and that's in the red color on your timing tower. In the yellow color on your timing tower is our Masters class, which are, I believe, 55 and older, which I think is now bent up to 60 and over, age drivers. With Antonio Race, Jorg Monty, and Chris Murakami, the three that are pretty dominant thereabouts during the season. So those are your top three, as we see Simpson jump in there to P5 overall. And then on further down, we've got our Spec 2 drivers, which is being led by Julian Ditchburn in the 393, and those drivers are basically 3K and under, and their numbers are anything from 200 up to 899. So that gives you a good grid, and they'll be green on the board as we see Ditchburn, Bruce Zabrosco, and Trenton Kramer, your top three currently, settled in P14, 18th, and 19th overall. As we'll get those two cleared up there with the non-colors, but those are Spec 2 drivers. So as we're waiting for the end of qualifying to finish, we'll talk about this being a new season, and we've got our season schedule. Generally speaking, it follows the official iRacing schedule, but every once in a while, Stevie Ray, our league organizer, wants to change things up. Last season was a very strange season. We had a 10-race season. 8 of those races were basically what we would call double headers. So the Weekend Warrior Formula 4s and SRF Spec Racer 4s both ran the same track. This season it's only 3, and it's a 12-week season. There's no off weeks during that for any holidays or anything like that. So the only times that we're going to have double headers is this week, Summit Point. Later on in the season will be a doubleheader week 8 and week 9 at Rudskogen, and then at Belle Isle, which is just one of my worst tracks ever. But there's some interesting tracks on the schedule for both Formula 4 and Weekend Warriors this season, Sam.
Yeah, some real good ones. I mean, Belle Isle is an absolute, a good circuit for me at least. I love street circuits, to drive them in particular, and so I'm also very pleased that Long Beach is present on the schedule. Snetterton 300 I'm a bit skeptical of. I grew up about 20 miles away from Snetterton, and they butchered it. They murdered the circuit. I think it's the worst circuit renovation in history, because it used to be way better, and even the 200 layout is nowhere near as good as it used to be. We're using the 300 layout for that round, so that would be tight and twisty. Of course, a free circuit though now is Snetterton, so it is much more accessible for lots of drivers. But Rudskogen would be good to visit there. I think that's a pretty nice circuit. Oschersleben getting a bit of love, which I don't think it gets enough of, honestly, because, that's now a free circuit as well. it's actually a pretty good track. It just doesn't host any international events, so that's why it's not very well known on iRacing. So yeah, some circuits which don't get a whole lot of love. Good to see them on the schedule.
Yeah, I did like we did the Rutskogen, I believe, last season. It's a fantastic race. So it was really enjoyable to watch. Like I said, Belle Isle, not a fan. I do like the Snetterton 200 circuit. I think of the three circuits, I think it's my or the three layouts, it's my favorite. But obviously there's a couple other ones down there. The back-to-back Brands Hatch and CTMP is just going to be fantastic. Just two tracks that I absolutely love driving and love commentating races there. And then with the end of the season with Long Beach and VIR, that's two completely different circuits, and will be very interesting to watch. So it's going to be a really good season as we're with about a minute and a half left in qualifying. Still Northamptonshire and Spinell up in the top three overall, and Spec 1. Reese Murakami has jumped up to top 5, second overall. Yorgmani down to P9 and third in the Masters. And it appears that we still have our threes. I'm looking up the timing and scoring here. Yep, Ditchburn's up to P7 in Spec 2, as well as Adam Barney in P16th is now second in Spec 2 class. And I believe the last one is Pedro Carvalho in P18 overall, is third place in your Spec 2 category with about a minute or so left. As we saw last season, normally these qualifying sessions are pretty much done and dusted at this point. Nobody really progresses, but for whatever reason last season we had a lot more of these last minute jumps in qualifying order to kind of reset yourself. So it'll be interesting to see if we have any more of those later on in the final minute of this race, or I'm sorry, in qualifying.
Yeah, and this is such a short circuit that they're going to get a lot of laps in. So yeah, it's unlikely that there's going to be a late effort because, these guys have already done 10, even 15 laps already. So they have already extracted the vast majority of the pace available from these cars. But let's see if anyone is able to do it. Jean Pereira is one of them trying to improve, but he goes to 14th. As the timer ticks up to 20 minutes, the checker flag is out. And everyone else will try to complete their lap times as well. Stevie Ray approaching the line in 27th. He improves by about a tenth of a second, but it's not enough. And now it's up to everyone else to complete their lap times. Simon Ball, by the way, with a pretty good lap so far, so just watch out for him. He's currently in P8. He's just at the fastest first sector of anyone there.
Yeah, good run by Ball. He had some pretty good races last season, and so he now has kind of climbed up into that top 10. Gives him at least a little better chance of trying to work his way toward the front of this, but obviously big mountain to climb when you're about a half second behind the pole sitter.
Oh, what happened with... I mean, I didn't know if our timing screen was like playing tricks on me, but he set a purple first sector there, did Ball, and then maybe he made a mistake or something. But what a damp squib that is.
Yep, maybe so. Yeah, as we're seeing Antonio Race coming around, trying to finish off his lap, and these should be the last of the laps as we're coming past we're a minute over qualifying. As anybody who's had it, as a matter of fact, I think probably means Antonio has already crossed the checkered flag.
I think he has, yeah.
So I think now it's just. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I think the very last guy to cross the line was Pereira, and he got across the line with about 2 seconds to spare. He moved up to 13th place. So that will be the last improvement, and that will be our first grid for the season. All
right. So now, as we get ready for the grid to set, we will. I'll take a deep breath and see if I can work my way through this, a la Tim Cox style. And see if we can.
I mean, Tim's a wonderful human being.
Yeah,
one of the best humans that I know. However, I don't think his name pronunciation is something to aspire to. So I don't think you got.
Well, I'm just hoping I can get through all 43 drivers before we get to the green flag. That's my hope. All right, as we got the grid up, we have Aeronam on pole with outside João Tabino. Row 2, Sam Spinell and Antonio Race, Masters class driver. Chris Murakami and Chris Simpson on Row 3. Julian Ditchburn, Simon Ball on Row 4. York Monty and Michael McConnell on Row 5. Thor Tolo and Jason Green, Row 6. Jean Pereira and Jeff Jacobson on Row 7. Alan DeGassis and Tom Laurie, all Masters row. Row 8. Trenton Kramer, Adam Barney, I think that's an all-spec 2 row on Row 9. Yongchi Lin, Pedro Carvalho rounds out your top 20. Wilson Brzorosco and Benjamin Harris on Row 11. Dana Bowes, Nick Tolo on Row 12. David Payne, Paul Stevens, Row 13. Stevie Ray, Brad Cathcart, Row 14. Josh Justice, David Foy rounds out your top 30. Paul Jackson and Gary Wolbolt, Row 16. Philip Fernandez, Greg Holland, 33rd and 34th. Paolo Brim and Peter True, 35th and 36th. Johan Butinga and Stephen Healy, Row 19. Jason Greider and Russ Telker on Row 20. And then finishing up, Antonio Gonzalez, John Toms, and Miro Rasky. Rounds out your 43-car grid. And
I don't know if you can hear that. That's applause.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Who needs Tim Cox, eh? You know, I think you've covered his role now, so that's,
all right.
That's good. They haven't even pulled away yet. We've got plenty of time.
Plenty of time. All right. So, what are we looking for, Sam? As far as we're going to see in this race, obviously, getting everybody single file is going to be the hard part of this, as we're getting ready to jump into start our pace lap here. But that first lap, always critical. Cold tires. Just making sure that you've got your space and not crowding anybody else.
Yeah, and these guys, know I've done so many races around this track, whether it be these cars or whether it be other fairly similar vehicles as well, so they know sort of the risks of turn 1. They'll hopefully be staying in kind of two lanes at the start of the race. I think it's mainly turn 2 maybe where they got that pinch point, because you've got the gravel on the outside, and with iRacing nowadays, gravel is awful. It's basically like a slowdown if you go out there. It just kills your momentum. And then of course you go down into the right-hander of Chute, and then into the unnamed left-hander, and that's really gets worse. So I would say it's gradually going to get more lairish as we go around the lap, because the corners get tighter and tighter.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And yeah, turn 2, the we've talked about it since it's happened, the off-track physics, friction modeling, which, the slowdown is, I think, a far better penalty than, the tire barrier. But that's just me. That seems like that's the way it used to be. And so now you're right. So turn 2, 3, 4, as we're seeing behind the safety car here, it's really, really tight through here, and I won't say it's one lane, but you have to be very, very careful going through this section of track. Yeah,
we'll see maybe a couple too wide, but you don't really want to do it too much, because you're just going to kill your run, particularly do this next section, because this is flat out for these cars, and it just extends the straight. I mean, there's really not many braking zones around this track. Like, you brake for turn 1, you brake a little for turn 2. 3 is sort of just a preparation corner for 4, and then 5 you're sort of just accelerating your way through. Like, you're talking really like 2 proper braking zones, and then a couple of places where you lift, and that's it on this circuit. Like, it is a really fast circuit, and I think will produce some really close racing.
Well, we're about to find out as the pace car is off and Aeronom leads the field down into that final corner as we get ready here on the front straight. Just waiting for him to get, and there he goes, and we're off and racing. Good jump by Nom. He's down, got a 2 or 3 car length lead. Looks like the guys in his lane were able to move forward. That Spinell jumping his way up into P2 as we're coming down into that critical first corner. As we're looking back, just looks like too wide in some places, but overall very nice and safe. Got everybody well handled. Don't see anybody falling down in the order, so it looks like everybody got through cleanly. as we get ready to come down here into turn 2.
Yeah, there's only one push to the track limits. There's going to be a couple of puffs of gravel, I'm sure, on the outside of this turn 2. But on the most part, it's good work. And now this is the trouble spot. If you get on the grass on the inside, you're just sliding all the way into your rivals. But at least the top 20 are very, very well behaved. It was a great start for Spinell, by the way, from 3rd place on the grid. He managed to get straight up into 2nd place. It really seemed like the drivers on the other side of the grid, I think you mentioned it, Charles, got a good launch. But fantastic driving, and this is the part of the circuit where you really need to go single file, and they've all done that. So they've all settled in here, and they can really start their attack. Jason Green, I think, just with a slight off for himself, lost a couple of places, but most others are absolutely fine.
Yep, and Trenton Kramer up 4 spots already, has a really good start to his race. He'll be battling for that Spec 2 crown again this season. It just looks like he's going to be in good form as we see the first real battle down in the Centennial race, and Chris Murakami down into turn 1. Race with a good move to the inside as we see a car wide. That's the 27 car of Thortolo. So obviously you see you see what happens when you do get off the track and into the grass or the gravel. Is just like you said, pretty much just an instant slowdown. You're going to lose several seconds of time on track, and probably a few positions, especially if you're running up toward the front of the field.
Yeah, I guess he... Oh, Nom!
Oh, no,
Nom!
Nom's
What's
off.
happened to Nom?
Oh.
Has he, like, cut the track? Oh, my goodness
no.
me, he's just spun. That is a rarity for one of the most all-time successful drivers on Apex Racing TV. I mean, this guy has won countless championships in different disciplines. That is a rarity to see him make that mistake.
Yeah, I do think we did come back with the historian that came back last year, so I think he has 5 championships. So we'll get the replay from Josh, and yeah, it just looks like a simple little spin going in there.
Maybe there was contact, so I'm not quite sure. He didn't quite see it early enough, but I think this might just a little bit more. Oh no, it was by himself. Yeah, just putting it in too hot.
Yep. And didn't what I saw that looked like from the corner of my eye as he came back out onto the track. It kind of jostled some people around. I think somebody got off on the left. Oh yeah, there we go. I saw a car diving very deep in there. It looks like that maybe there was another spin or another incident after that, but that has dropped Nom down to P20 overall. Gives Tobino the lead. So I think Spinell actually probably had to check up to avoid Nom, so that gave the couple of the drivers a little further back the opportunity to work their way around and make a move. That also brings Race into 2nd, Spinell into 3rd, Murakami in 4th, and Ball all the way up to P5. So taking that good qualifying run and is doing some things with it. So just like that. Oh, the commentator curse has struck. Week 1, 3 laps into the race. Talk about them, and there you go.
I do the Apex Racing TV compilation highlights. I'm so glad we've already got one in the books. That is straight away clip 1 or 2 in March. Thank you for that, Charles.
Oh yes, you're quite welcome. As I always like to see myself in the clips, but generally it's generally because I've either there's been really good action on the track or I've done something horribly wrong, which is fine. So as we see Ball now down to 24th.
I'm usually very skeptical to include the commentator curses, because sometimes people are a bit like, oh, I said something, it led to something. It's like, did it really though? Come on, that was quite a loose tangent. Nah, that one, absolutely gold, Charles.
Yeah, that was absolutely immediate. Yep, absolutely. Actually, as working with this series over the last 2 or 3 seasons, I've pretty much stopped picking drivers out just because of that fact. And so I just don't really give, unless we're talking about something specific, I don't give any drivers like, oh, I think this guy's got a chance, because as soon as I say a name, that's pretty much it for that driver for that race. So I've just stopped doing it, and now coming back in to talk about talk about something during the race. Yeah, okay. So I guess that's we'll try and do something a little different from the rest of this. I don't want to make that a common occurrence. So as we continue on with the race, Tobino in 1st, Spinell 2nd. Race your podium. race leading the Masters class. It looks like Ditchburn is up to P6, leading Spec 2. Kramer in Spec 2 also up to P10. So he's having a good run. We've got Race Murakami and Monty, your top 3 in Masters class. Tabino, Spinell, and Simpson, your top 3 in Spec 1. And so as we continue on here, looks like everybody, with the exception of the people that I call by name, are having pretty good runs so far. We're not having really any incidents out on track. It looks like maybe Ball is started working his way back up. He's back up to 22nd, so he's slowly making his climb back up the field. So it looks like he's got settled back in after that spin that I cursed him with.
Yeah, that's good work from him. I'm curious as to how far up Aaron Norm's going to get. He's 7.3 seconds off the lead. You know this is much better than me, but I mean, could he win still? Like, can he just slingshot his way past each one of these guys, nab the draft, catch up, pass, nab the draft, catch up, pass, and just do that all the way up to P1, or is that too ambitious?
I mean, I think speed-wise, I think Arrow is absolutely capable of working his way back up to the top. I think what we've seen, not just from him, but from some of our other really, really fast guys that come in that maybe qualify, that don't qualify, start in the back. They'll work their way up, and then all of a sudden they'll get caught up in somebody else's business, and that's pretty much it. So we'll see. It's, Nom is one of those, obviously, like I said, if anybody can do it, he would be one of those guys that could. He does have that type of pace in this car, and it may be that the pit stop he can do a little, maybe an undercut, and try that and see if that helps him out, or maybe some pit stop strategy will be of his benefit during this race, as we're about almost 8 minutes in. So figure pit stop cycle will start, or pits will be open probably around the 11 or 12 minute mark. That seems to be the standard fare for the Formula Ford. We'll know it because normally we'll see our first taker of pit stops will be our race or league organizer, Stevie Ray. We normally say, when Stevie comes in, it's, the pit window is now officially open. So we'll see how this all works out, as we got a good battle here with Murakami. And that is the 8 car of Simpson behind him, and Monty as well. Ditchburn, McConnell. That's a really big. Actually is a really big train there, from basically Murakami back to.
Oh no!
Oh,
little bit of a tap there. That was that Kramer going into the back of McConnell, and they got away with that pretty luckily. Fortunately, there's no front wing to lose on these cars, so you can get away with those incidents more than other vehicles. Yeah, they all survived, but that was just a big checkup, and you identified the fact that it was just a long chain. And everyone, whenever you've got the lead car brakes, and then the car behind, unless they're going for a move, brakes that a little bit earlier just to afford a little bit of space. Car behind that brakes a little bit earlier, and you can actually mug drivers by being maybe 4 cars deep and just braking normally and scything past a bunch of them. These guys are just absolutely going for it. This is Simpson getting back past Murakami again. Marnie's going to try to go through by just keeping that tight inside line. Whoever gets the drafts up to turn 2 might be the victor out of this specific battle, and the one who's getting the draft at the moment is Marnie, and he is pulling ahead slightly, and he takes that 5th place, but you can't help but feel that might only be a temporary effect.
Yeah, we have seen that before in this series, where you get this train like this, and it's basically a game of leapfrog, where you've got whoever's in the lead will get the lead going down into that heavy braking zone in turn 1. Next lap, the car in 2nd or 3rd makes the move and just takes the spot back. So we'll see if that continues during this race. As you said, Simpson and Monty both got past Murakami. That puts them in 4th and 5th respectively. Ditchburn looked to try and capitalize on that as well. Could not make that move, so he still sits in 7th behind Murakami, with McConnell, Lynn, and Craner rounding out your top 10. And as I was going to say, that battle, that train runs all the way down really to about P16, and Tom Laurie So basically everything from 4.3 to 8.3 seconds back, you've got about 10 cars that are just nose to tail almost. As we see, there we go. As we see Monty taking that slingshot down into turn 1 to take the pass over Chris Simpson, and puts him up into 4th place. And meanwhile, up in the front, Antonio Race has taken the lead of this race over Joao Tabino. So now we have a Masters class driver who is now leading the race. Tabino in 2nd, Spinell in 3rd, and they have a nice 4-second gap over that train that starts at P4.
Yeah, they're just pulling away ever so slightly every lap. Well, I say ever so slightly, it's actually fairly big margin. It's half a second a lap faster they were than Simpson on that last round. He's actually got back past Money then, so Money took the place, then similarly lost it at turn 2, and now it's some 0.6 of a second back from the P4 man. But yeah, these top 3 not too decisive at the moment, and I think they'll probably stay out as long as they can, because this is good pace that they're producing, not using too much fuel either. Green comes into the pits, half expecting maybe not to come into the pits. Pereira's, I think, has had an off, so Pereira, who was around 12th position, he's just rejoined the track now, but he did not come into the pits. I think he went off on the outside of the final corner. As Tubino went back into the lead as well, down into turn 1.
There we go. And yeah, that's interesting that he didn't go in, but it's interesting to see Jason Green. Jason Green, usually one of our drivers that is a very good fuel strategist and waits until the very, very end. So obviously he's thinking that there's something to be had from the undercut, so he's giving it a try, and we'll see if he can capitalize on that. He was running, I think, somewhere around that 16th to 19th position, basically right at the end of that long train. So he said, you know what, I think instead of just me riding around here, I'll go ahead and get my pit stop done and go ahead and get back on track. So we'll see how that works for him as we see the front battle again with Tabino in front, Reese in 2nd, Spinell in 3rd, and they seem like they're doing just a good job of working together. You do see the little run down as those 2 cars in front are passing each other into 1 to get that, but they're not fighting through corners, so that's keeping their overall lap times up and allowing them to just stretch that gap a little further back down to P4, as we see Lynn has making that move down again over Simpson. Monty is attempting to come with him. Monty taking that inside line again, very tight, and it's successfully done. That's a couple of times Monty's made that inside line work for him.
Yes, and yeah, I feel like him and Simpson have swapped positions about 5 times now in the last 3 laps or so. Still Nom staying out there. He's now just in that train in 9th place. There goes Tom Laurie up ahead of Benjamin Harris. Harris actually up 8 places. I think Shi-Lin, by the way, up 15 places. Amazing gain for him so far. I think he is the highest gainer of anyone, albeit that might change around later on when all the pit stops take place. So you can see it on the timing tower. And a fair few drivers coming in on that lap as well. So Green's still leader of the drivers who have pitted. Kramer in 2nd place, but we also had Pereira, Ray, Bose as well, albeit Bose actually pitted on lap 2 of the race, so he will need to pit again. And Aaron does now come into the pit, so he left it for a little bit, and I imagine he's going to come out around Jason Green, who of course was the first to pit.
Yep, and we'll see how that worked out for Nom. Obviously, he was around that same area of the grid that Green was, so it'll be interesting to see where he comes out in relation to Green. So I think that's Green going by now, so I did not catch the number of the car. So we'll see how that all shakes out.
Actually, yeah, I mean he's got a bit of acceleration to do, Nom, but according to what I'm seeing, he is going to be in that 27th place. So Nom now leader of the drivers who have pitted and can lead that train. Here they are, Nom, followed by Green, followed by Kramer, and that is our top 3 of the early stops.
Yeah, and there you go. So that's so now it's the game. It's about a 37-second stop on the pits from cone to cone. So probably going to end up being, I don't know, 32, 33 seconds of lost time on track. So we'll see how that all shakes out as we move further on and we get rid of all the cars come in for their mandatory pit stop because they don't have enough fuel to take them to the end of the race. As we see, Race make it. Speaking of Race, as we see him making the move down into the inside of Tabino again, and Spinell still hanging out there in third. Gap back to P4 and Lynn is about 4.6 seconds. So they're all just kind of marking time at this point. Looks like the gap hasn't really stretched. And so now, as we see, I did see Nom and Green in that group come by as we saw Fernandez in the pits.
Oh, someone spinned it. That was Paul Stevens, I think. Or I think we just saw in the foreground have a crash. But yeah, I think he's back going again now.
Oh, yep, good call. So as we see Adam Barney coming out back out on track. He comes back out in 36th position, right behind Tolo.
Must be so tempting.
Yep.
Must be so tempting, so to when you're on that pit straight to pull a hard right. Oh, that's not the racing line, Antonio. That's really not going to help you run. I mean, he's going to be over a second behind now.
Yeah, that was.
I mean, and like a few months ago, not a problem. You know, you power through that, you'd probably still be leading right now. But with the gravel as it is now, you can't do that. I wonder if he's turned in too early here, and no, he just took way too much power. That's crazy. I'm surprised he got that far wrong, and you can see how the car just bogs down. The thing that it reminds me of is when I used to do go-karting when I was a bit younger. Sometimes you'd go through a big puddle, and you'd drive through the puddle, and you'd lose like 10% of your speed, and it feels like you're being pulled, like almost like there's an elastic band with the world's strongest man pulling it back behind you, and that lost him over a second on that occasion.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's just one of those things, as we talked about, since it's been implemented, the off-track physics modeling for the friction on the gravel, it actually acts like what a gravel trap is supposed to do. Is that you get two tires off in there, and it pulls that car in that direction. It just wants to just slow everything down, and does its job, which is what it's designed for, is to slow you down. So obviously, if you're trying to maintain your speed, that is not the place you want to be. As we see Stevens coming out of the pits now, it's going to be dropped down the grid. It looks like he is. What's that?
Yes, that's Chulo and Gonzalez going past, albeit they haven't pitted yet. Quite a long pit stop there for Paul Stevens. Oh, what's going on with Grider? Has he got some repairs to do, I wonder? He is being held for a while. 31 seconds now.
Oh, so we'll see here as we see. Did that car just come off the jacks? Did he take tires?
Yeah, maybe he took tires back, son.
I think that might have been maybe just a kind of a newcomer mistake there. I think I say newcomer, he's been in several races with us. So it's not as if he's just a rookie out there on track. Maybe it's just a little mental mistake that happens occasionally. You just forget to uncheck things. And for your pit stop, as we see Woolbolt working his way out.
I mean, that was a long pit stop as well, 49 seconds. I don't know what that could have been though for Woolbolt, because a speeding penalty is usually 40 seconds.
Right.
Yes. And so it can't be a speeding penalty. Otherwise, he would have had a 9-second pit stop, and that would be. Oh no, sorry, no, my bad. So I was looking at the overall time, but no, like 25 seconds. So he was about held for another 10 seconds longer than what he should have been. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what was going on there.
Yep, absolutely. So as we're looking here at Yangshi Lin in 4th place, still leading that train of the second train of cars in here. It looks like the train has kind of broken up a little bit as we've had people taking pit stops. So now we've got a group of 3. It's Lynn, Monty, and Simpson in that second pack, trying to track down Tabino, Spinell, and Race, who are our top 3 overall. And with McConnell, Murakami a little further back in P7 and P8. DeGassis now kind of has a nice train of cars behind him with Jacobson, Ditchburn, Laurie, Harris, Tolo, and others. That seems to be where the long train of cars is at this point now. As we see Aeronom in P23. Looks like that the 398 car behind him. Just trying to see who that is. Peter True, 388, excuse me. And Jason Green is still hanging on back there, trying to match pace with Arrow, which is very difficult to do if you've watched Arrow race at all. He is very, very quick when he's got some clean air in front of him. He usually is up near the top in qualifying, so it's a big task to try and match his pace lap after lap.
Yeah, really demanding that, absolutely. And the second half of the event, there goes Marnie. But they're going to stay alongside, and they almost make contact. Of course, got a while for his ping to travel, does Lynn, in order to get to the... Because these are US servers, aren't they? So
they are.
Lynn's ping's got absolutely ages to travel. I mean, it's basically an Aussie.
It really is.
Using the European servers. So, yeah, that is tough for Lynn, and they're fortunate not to have a little bit of phantom contact right there. But he's going to come into the pits now as Lynn, so he gets the work done and then bombs it in. Look how demanding that pit lane entry is. Maybe was over the speed when he came in, but as long as you kind of... There's like a period where like where like you're got to get your average speed down over like the first 10 meters of the pit lane. So as long as he got it down again, then he should be alright. And he does pull away very quickly, 15 seconds. He should stay in the lead, but it might be close between him and Aeronaut.
Yeah, we'll see as we see the group coming around and Julian coming out of the pits. Yeah, so I think, and this is it's an educated guess on my part, but I think that since iRacing really was, I guess, really basically designed off of NASCAR's video games, I think they use a lot of the NASCAR technology as far as pits and its sectors. So there's pit sectors. So the pit entry line, you don't necessarily have to be under the pit speed limit when you hit the cones, but there is an invisible line there that once you get to that sector completion, you have to be at a certain speed or a certain average speed. Otherwise, you're going to get the pit speeding, which obviously is a race killer because it's a 40-second penalty for pit speeding on entry. As we see Green working his way through this very technical little section here. This is kind of the slowest section of the track. As we get the speed built up, as you said, pretty much flat from here on as they're just continually building speed to work their way down the back stretch into that final corner when it's just a lift, I think, for these cars.
Yeah, pretty much just a lift there. And he's...
somebody
that
off.
Is a back marker. That might be Adam Barney. No, it's not Adam Barney. Paul Stevens, maybe. He's gone off there. We watched Aeronom move up into 19th place. He's got past Cathcart. He wasn't as close to Lynn as I thought he would be. I think he was in the same group as Lynn, wasn't he? He was in the peloton with Lynn. Lynn was at the front of it, to be fair, but Nom was at the back of it. But I thought Nom would be a lot closer than that. But no, really not close whatsoever. So I don't know. I thought Nom might win this race, but I am growing sceptical because I think once the leaders come in, Nom's going to still be 8-9 seconds off the lead, which is even further back than what he was 20 minutes ago. So, yeah, I'm not fancying his chances now at this point.
I think you're absolutely right. I think he's a 4-second gap up to Lynn, and I think Lynn, when he came into the pits, was about 4.5 seconds behind that lead group. So unless they've slowed themselves down with their battling, which they have had a couple of battles in the turn one where they stayed side by side maybe a little longer than they needed to, but they still have a pretty commanding 4.5 second lead from Race back to Monty from P3 to P4. And Race has actually dropped off the front too a little bit. So he's actually 2.5 seconds off of Spinell and Tabino.
I wonder if it was that when he went off at the last corner, and maybe
I think
he just
you're
lost
absolutely
the
right.
draft there, and then he just hasn't been able to get back in the draft since. So, I mean, it just demonstrates. I mean, that was just a lack of concentration for Reyes. He was leading at that point, goes into the gravel once, and that's enough to end his chances of winning the race.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Sam. I think that's exactly what caused it, is just that loss of momentum going through the gravel as we see somebody else, a couple more takers coming into the pits. That is Nick Tullo and Stephen Healy coming in now. So as more and more drivers, we still have our top, and actually Ditchburn is actually in as well, and he was up in that second group of cars with Monty Simpson McConnell. So he's in. So he's had enough. So the Canadian's going to actually take his pit stop now. And we'll see what his pit. Oh no, and he's backed up. So he missed a box. So
that was a long hesitation as well. That was almost as though he went into someone else's pit box, tried to negotiate them changing his tires for him, and then they were like, "Nah, mate,
No,
you gotta reverse."
Yeah.
And then he did. About 3 months afterwards.
Yeah.
And now he's going to be way back.
Yep. Yeah. That's that was pretty much going to take him out of that group that he was racing with. It's probably going to drop him down to that group behind that was about 3 seconds behind him. So, I think when it's all said and done, it maybe he'll come out around where DeGassis, Jacobson, Tullo, Harris, that group in there. So we'll see, because that was a pretty long stop for Ditchburn. As we're looking back up at the front, and our race leader, Tabino, still has Spinell hot on his tail.
Not got much longer to go, have these guys now, have they? 5 minutes at most, but maybe even the next couple of laps these guys might be coming in. I mean, it's not any longer than 10 minutes. The series better. If they pitted 10 minutes in, that's when the pit window opened, right? So that's the most amount of fuel you can put in the car. So they can go a maximum of half an hour, right?
Yeah, it's generally speaking the shorter circuits. It depends on how tight the cars stay together. If they can do some fuel saving with each other as they're racing, the shorter circuits tend to be a little bit longer. So you would see at worst or at most 32 minutes, maybe 33 minutes, and that's going to be really, really pushing things. So yeah, as we see now, the leader's in, Tabino in the pits now to take his service. So with the 27.5 minute mark, also have Simpson in, and yeah, we've only got really about 10 cars, maybe 12 cars that still haven't pitted yet. And yeah, you're absolutely right. We should be seeing them in the next 2 or 3 laps.
So it needs to be a big in-lap here for Spinell. Chibino taking front tyres. Come on, get off the jacks. This ain't good.
No.
This is a long stop. It's a very long stop. Oh, why is he taking tyres?
Yeah, I'm not really sure. That's generally speaking, we don't do a lot of tire changes here in the Formula Fords, our Weekend Warrior Series. So that's just another one of those little mistakes where maybe, and here's, I'm going to throw this out, and we talked about Ditchburn. If you go past your pit stop or your pit box and back up, sometimes that will reset your pits. So if he came in and maybe missed his box, had to back up, I did not see that. However, it's not that it didn't happen, I just didn't see it. So it's either a matter of him forgetting to uncheck his tires, or it reset the pit stop. And once he backed into the box, it started servicing him and it started giving him tires, and it was just too late at that point. You can kind of uncheck them, but then, you risk really, really upsetting your car if you take a mixed match set of tires back out on the track.
So Spinell pretty much has this in the bag now. He just needs to make sure that he doesn't do anything silly in these last 10 minutes, and he should be fine. He's still got another pit stop to go. Amazing fuel saving from him.
He's done a great job, and yeah, he's been running in that group as we talked about. It was 3 cars, then became 2, and he hasn't really pushed himself up to the front. He's just kind of been riding there, so he's done a really good job of fuel saving, and I think he is the last car out on track. So the only other possibility, and I'm sitting here spitballing things as we're talking about it, is the fact that when you're actually out running by yourself and you don't have that draft partner, that group behind could make inroads into actually getting up there. So this is going to be critical. Yeah, this is going to be a critical pit stop. He's got to get it nailed perfectly as we see him coming into his box.
And of course, he's going to have to take maybe a little bit more fuel than he ordinarily would do, because he's not going to have a draft from anymore. He's going to have to be punching a hole in the air for the last 10 minutes, should all things go according to plan for him, because he wants to be leading. It's the end of the race. How much fuel does he take? You're looking at that, up to 14 seconds. Not the shortest pit stop ever. I thought it might be shorter than the others because of how far he went, but it's still decent, and he's way out in the lead. I mean, this is going to be, what, 3-4 seconds? The others come over the crest. And it's, you know what, it's even more than that. Maybe maybe it will turn out to be 4 seconds once he gets up to speed. So that's good for him. Lynn and Reyes need to try to work together to hold off Nom. We'll be charging them down for a rostrum position.
That's correct. Yep. So you're as we'll reset after the pits. Spinell now up in front, 4-second lead over Yangshi Lin. Antonio Race right on his tail as you were riding along with Antonio. Arrow Nom in P4, he is actually third in the Spec 1 class. York Monty is in P5, running second in Masters. Simpson in 6th, McConnell 7th, Green 8th, Murakami 9th, and then Trenton Kramer is our first Spec 2 driver running in P10. So there's your top 10 runners. And so now, it's just a matter of Spinell not making any mistakes, keeping the car on the track. And not being cursed by the commentator, and he may get a chance to take this win today.
Yeah, really. Yeah, that's a huge margin, and especially considering the pace that he's had all day long. So will be very tricky to beat. Though he has not got too much traffic either. Wonderful stuff, right? Nice battle going on for 15th place. Tom Laurie in that position at the moment. He's got quite a long chain behind him. Jeff Jacobson, David Payne, Benjamin Harris, Julian Ditchburn, Zhao Tubino as well. Oh, Harris has actually had an off. There he is. He's stationary in the gravel. He's having to wait for the other drivers to pass. He finds a gap and he's back going again. I wonder if that could have been contact with one of the other drivers in that big group of cars.
As we'll see, get a replay here from Josh. So we're looking down here at Benjamin Harris. That back stretch down into the final corner. Just over-rotated the car, off in the gravel, all solo spin.
And it's impressive, and it shows how good these drivers are that doesn't happen more often, because whenever I've driven this car in the past, particularly in the slow speed corners, it is so easy for the car to just over-rotate. Like, the rear end just decides to take control and wants to be ahead of the front end all of a sudden and can do a loop like that. It's not quite so bad in the high-speed corners, because as long as you can understeer the car, like, you're not going to get oversteer necessarily. So if you push the fronts enough, then you can sort of make sure that you understeer through the corner. But those oversteer moments are still very possible, really, wherever. So yeah, it's impressive that we haven't seen that more often.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's actually overall this has been a pretty clean race. We haven't had but just a few solo spins. I don't think we've had any real major incidences. So I think everybody's ran a really clean race from start to finish. As we're looking now, Arrow Nom currently running in P4, desperately trying to just run hot laps, trying to make up the gap up to Lynn and Race, who are sitting there 4 seconds back of the leader in P2 and P3. And it looks like Spinell with the purple lap, fastest lap of the race, with a 1:14.89. So obviously he is, in his last lap, is actually only a couple of tenths off that. So, and he's matched pretty much everybody in the field, with the exception of this group led by Nom, who were about a tenth faster, but not nearly enough, with about 5.5 minutes left in the race. And that gap seemingly is, with every minute that clicks off, is insurmountable, I think is the right word to use there. Spinell still managing to maintain that 4-second lead over Lynn and Race. And then the gap is starting to close ever so slightly back between Race and Nom. The gap is now about 3.7, as Nom has got Monty and Simpson in tow. So that's 3 very, very fast drivers running nose to tail. So we'll see if they can make up any ground in this final couple of minutes. A little further back, McConnell, Green, Murakami, Kramer. Some nice big group there. I think is even further on even further back with Ball and Tolo kind of rounding out that group of about 6 cars. And that's through the top 12. And then Pereira, DeGassis, Lori a little further back from them. As we're still in here looking, still Chris Simpson just kind of is our camera car here, just basically not really looking to make any kind of moves to look around, just kind of peeking left and right to see if there's anything that he can do to maybe rattle Monty in front, which is far easier said than done.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, certainly much easier said than done. See if he can do anything here. He'll look to the inside. Of course, he knows that the driver second in line has to brake early, so not to hit the driver at the front, but still couldn't quite go for the manoeuvre. Still got 4 more minutes to go. That's about 4 more laps. Simon Ball, after the spin that we saw him have earlier on, he's back up into P10. He's got Murakami, who we saw got overtaken by Green a couple of laps ago. Might be able to catch Murakami by the end of this race, but I'm sure Kramer's not going to sit down. And also Chulo as well, who is 1 place down from his race start for Chulo. I think also had a little bit of an issue right at the start of the race. He is very close to these drivers in P12.
Yeah, great recovery by Simon Ball from the shunt from the commentators to dropped all the way down to the in somewhere around the mid-20s to make it back up in the top 10. So great drive by him, as well as Kramer as well, sitting there in P11. Hasn't really moved up. He moved up 6 positions. I'm sorry, I was going to say hadn't really moved up much, but has actually moved up quite a bit from his qualifying to lead that Spec 2 group. As we see Lynn and Race looking to the inside, but thinking, no, not quite time for that yet. He's maybe gauging that for maybe a lap or 2 from the end to make that move down into turn 1 to get that position. I think if I'm smart, I'm waiting to the last lap and then defending for my life to try and make that pass stick. We see here Jacobson in a battle with Tom Laurie, side by side, coming out of 1. Laurie tries a little crossover move through 2, but got a good run there. He's looking as he's not going to do anything. Yep, so no late lunges. Looks like Jacobson did a good job just kind of covering that off. Did not really give him a line. It's a little half spin there from Laurie. Gathers the car back up. Got to be very careful here because he's now got the tires overheated, so he's got to make sure that he keeps them under him until they settle back in. He can get back on this straight, maybe cool those tires off a little bit. So nicely done. David Payne here in P17, having a good run. I think he is actually, if I'm looking at it, 2nd in Spec 2, so having a really good race as well.
Yeah, really good work from him. Oh, ball's gone past Kramer, by the way. Let's see if Payne can get this move stuck as well. Really, just a couple of mistakes there from Laurie, overheating the tyres, as you mentioned before. And left him vulnerable. He lost the draft from the cars ahead, but he's got much more confidence on the brake. Someone spun.
Oh, no.
They go either way. Oh, that was formation flying. The Red Arrows would be proud of that one. And they managed to scythe their way through. Now, here comes the move from Chubino, who, remember, of course, was leading, and a fantastic chance at this race win. And he's on the comeback as well, and he does get past Laurie. But do we know who it was who was facing the wrong way? It wasn't Ditchburn, was it?
Yep, so we're hearing from Josh that he thinks this was Jason Grider. That was the car pointed in the opposite direction as we were watching that battle, that 3-car battle. So he comes down. Yep, just too hot into turn 1.
And
sideways
then
and then held it. Nicely done. And then great job by all of these cars to avoid him. That was close. But well done by everybody involved in that. Yeah, that's what we like to see. If you're going to spin the car and you're going to be in the middle of the track, at least hold your brakes. Don't be rolling across. It's much easier to dodge somebody who's sitting still than it is moving. as we are working to get back to live camera here.
Yeah, here it was again from Grider, and then, yeah, everyone just splitting, picking which way they wanted to go. Would have seen the yellow flags, and I'm not sure which way their spotter would have been telling them to go, but whatever it was, you just need to make sure you don't go central. Spinell is on the last lap of the race. He's just got another couple of straights to go, and he was really the last man remaining. The other three guys who was battling for the lead all made mistakes, and here he is.
There you go. Yep, that's consistency counts, and it looks like that's going to give Sam Spinell the race victory here for week 1 of the Weekend Warriors Formula Ford Series. Congratulations to Sam, as we see Lynn and Race crossing the finish line, P2 and 3, and that gives Antonio Race the Masters win. Nam gets the final podium position for Spec 1.
Chubino's crashed. Chubino and Ditchburn have crashed right at the end, and Laurie has got back past those jars. Ditchburn and Pereira also making their way past. Oh, who's that wide?
Yep.
Oh no, Laurie, you've lost it again. Oh, come on, Laurie. You got given those 2 places. He's given one up with an unforced error at the last corner.
Wow. Very, very tough last lap battle there as we're continuing on, as we see Stevie Ray coming across the finish line in P22, Bruza Roscoe 23rd, as the rest of the field is now coming around the final corner here. So we'll get these last few cars to finish up. There's Cathcart in 25th.
Always a half chance at a run to the line here, isn't there? And now the drivers can turn right and take that massive jump over the banking. Yeah, I mean, I saw the drivers try at New Hampshire the other week, but that's
absolutely
not the same. That's you're approaching that at a much smaller speed. Here, you're pretty much at max speed in these cars, and then just launching it, and then you might ambush another driver who's on the other side of the circuit.
Oh wow! Really, so you just caught the end of that, and it was just like a 3-wide battle there. Just ran out of room, and 2 cars wheel-to-wheel contact and off the track. As you can see, that was the 26 car coming through there. Tom Laurie coming through the gravel. As after the end of that, had to lose another one of those spots back.
He was a bit
yeah.
slow.
Oh no, yeah. It's just, it wasn't 3 wide. It was just as they were he was trying to find a way around, and it just wheel to wheels and got collected each other, and that was the end of it. As we see Laurie working his way by, makes his way by Tabino, and then just overheating it through the last corner, through the gravel, slows him down again, gives Tabino a chance to get that at least one of that spots back, and then they cross the line.
Yeah, fun battles right to the end there with just the recovery really after the issues early on for Chubino. Who would have won out of Chubino and Spinell? It's very difficult to tell. I mean, Spinell, I'm not sure how experienced he is in the series, but that was quite an impressive performance. It'll be tricky to beat throughout the season. There goes the launches.
There we go. Yeah, so if you do well, you'll launch the car over there. If you don't, you just kind of drive to the end of the front straight and just drive out to the parking lot and disappear. And that's kind of how it just tells you what kind of day you're going to have, or that you've had. And so with that, we'll go through as we got our finishing positions. We'll go through the results here. Sam Spinell taking the race win, and obviously Spec 1 win as well. Yongchi Lin second, Spec 1 second place. Antonio Race Masters win, 3rd overall, so Masters driver up on the overall podium. Aaron Nam in 4th and taking final podium spot in Spec 1. Jorg Monty in 5th, taking the 2nd spot in Masters. Chris Simpson, Michael McConnell, Jason Green, Chris Murakami in P9, taking the final podium position in the Masters class. Simon Ball rounds out your top 10. Trenton Kramer, P11 overall, Spec 2 winner. Thor Tullo in P12, Alan DeGassis P13, Jeff Jacobson 14th, David Payne in 15th, Spec 2 P2, Zhao Tabino in 16th, Tom Laurie in 17th, Julian Ditchburn, I believe, takes the final podium position in the Spec 2 class as we continue on with Tom Reed, Ditchburn, Foy in 19th, Benjamin Harris in 20th, Josh Justice in P21, Stevie Ray in 22nd, Wilson Brzorowsko in 23rd, Jean Pereira in 24th, Brad Cathcart 25, Peter True, Philip Fernandez, Johan Batinga in P28, Pedro Carvalho in 29th, Paul Jackson rounds out your top 30, Gary Woldball, Dana Bowes 31st, 32nd, Adam Barney, Nick Tolo, Paul Stevens, Antonio Gonzalez, John Toms, Russell Telker in P38. As we finish up here with Jason Grider in 39th, Stephen Healy in 40th, Greg Holland, Paolo Brim, and Miro Rasky rounds out your grid. And I believe, as we see here, Brim and Rasky did not take the start of the race. And so that is it. And I believe we have a driver waiting in the interview area. And it is Antonio Race, third place overall and winner in the Masters class. So we'll bring him in. Antonio, congratulations, P3 overall. First place in Masters. So week 1 of the season, off to a very good start for you.
Hey, good night, guys. Yeah. was a surprise for me, but it was a good surprise. So I could stand there on the top. I don't know how, but was just surviving and try to not make mistakes. Even I did a mistake in one of the last corners. It cost me few tenths, but other than that was all good. I have to say fuel for after the pits. I don't have enough fuel, so I have to stick behind Yuan Shi, not even try to attack because my fuel was very, very, very on the edge.
Oh, so that was an interesting insight into that. So how are you thinking about the season? I'm sure you've had a chance to kind of look at the schedule, and what are you thinking that your prospects are going to be this season?
I'll be going easy and not pushing too much, just driving like a Sunday driver.
Well,
just go easy and relax, mostly.
There you go. Well, we enjoy watching these Sunday drives that you guys put on week in and week out. So congratulations, Antonio.
Yeah,
and we'll see you in the next race.
Yeah, see you next time. Okay, guys. Yeah, have a good one. Yeah, bye.
Right. That was Antonio Race, P3 overall, and our Masters class winner. And so, Sam, how about we'll give you the honors of interviewing our race winner.
Yes, it is Sam Spinell who now joins us. Sam, congratulations, man. What a fantastic result. In the end, some 5 seconds clear of the rest of the field. What a fantastic way to start the season.
Yeah, I mean, I found out about the race last minute, to be honest, on the Formula 4 Discord. And I'd been racing all week on this track. So I kind of knew. It was only because of a mistake when I went wide in the gravel that I realised, okay, I can just sit behind and fuel save. And then, because I knew they were pushing quite hard, I just had to back off and it should be all right, providing I don't mess up my pit stops, because I don't usually do any.
Sure, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, when it comes to the officials, yeah, pit stop is the last thing you need to be worrying about. Had you done much practice of the pit entry here? Because it's a really tricky one.
Not really. I had one race where I forgot to fuel, but apart from that, I came in quite hot. It was more just a balance of, I've got something that tells me my last 5 laps average, but it was more of a balance because it was balancing between 8 and 7 litres. And I knew at my 5 laps at the end I was going to push, so I was just hoping I didn't mess up and there was an extra lap at the end.
Definitely. And how are you feeling about the rest of the season? Are you going to do the rest of the season? Are you just going to pick and choose the rounds that you do in this series? What are your thoughts?
Unfortunately, I'm racing quite a lot this year, so whatever races I'm available, I'll definitely do them, because it was a really good race, to be honest. But I think next week I'm not available. But it's definitely a good championship to be a part of.
Absolutely. Well, we hope to see your name back on the timing board very soon, Sam. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to?
Probably my girlfriend for letting me play all week, but apart from that, no one else. Thank you.
Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Sam, and see you back hopefully in the future.
Yep.
Sam Spinell there. Yeah, finding about the race very late, jumped in and won it.
How about that? That's how you do things. All right, let's get our last interview in here. Our P2 overall, Yangshi Lin. Bring him in. Yangshi, congratulations, P2 overall. Good race for you. You really just kind of turned up the wick there, and up 17 positions to get the P2 overall. Good battling throughout the race for you.
I'll say the start of the race was not too optimal because I just forgot how to drive in qualifying, and I'm glad that I got really lucky, didn't lose too much time or ran into anyone coming through the field. So I'm not as good as Tim Hendrickson, so I couldn't catch the leader in the end.
Yeah, understand. There are very few people who are as good as Tim Hendrickson. So yeah, but you had a good battle, and then we talked with Antonio a little bit, just before this, and he said, yeah, I really couldn't do any battling with Yangshi at the end of the race because I kind of underfueled the car, so I just basically had to fuel save. Probably kept him from really trying to attack you for the last few laps of the race.
Yeah, I can see that. I think gradually in the toward the last few laps, I expect Antonio to attack, but he just feel like he was lifting more and more. So I kind of figured out the situation. It's a little bit unfortunate for him, but it was a good race overall. It's a little bit unfortunate. I think Errol spun out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that changed the dynamic of the race quite a lot at the front of the field.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yep. All right. Well, Yangshi, I'm assuming we'll see you in the Spec Racer race as well.
I'm a little bit busy today, so I might only race the Formula Ford only. But we'll see about the rest of the season.
All right. Sounds good, Yangshi. Congratulations on your P2.
Thank you.
That was Yangshi Lin, and I think that's the end of it for us, Sam. So for everybody watching, thank you very much. We do appreciate it. Week 1 in the books, 11 more weeks to go with the season, and I think it's going to be a fantastic season. That was a great race with good results, good, clean, and tight racing. So for Sam Fitzpatrick, for Joshua Wilkie in our production booth, we will see you in about an hour for Spec Racer Ford at this same Summit Point racetrack. And if not, then we'll catch you next week here at the same time for week 2 of the Weekend Warriors Formula Fords. Have a good day.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com